The flaw of resilience. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? A phrase hammered into our heads by cartoons and Barbie movies and songs on the radio. It has to ring true if we've heard it for so long, except it doesn't. There is this idea that there will always be some kind of karmic retribution for suffering, that resilience will be rewarded, a lesson taught alongside the power of friendship since biblical times, and it isn't all it's cracked up to be. While it is admirable to be resilient in the sense of being able to take things in stride, the idea that living through traumatic experiences inherently makes you a better person is deeply flawed. Is this concept of resilience as a virtue just? I don't think so. This idea is kind of hard to approach, since it is so deeply ingrained in Western society, probably due to Christian religions and their main thing being a holy martyr that saved everybody by dying. A lot of the times when I've brought this up with people in casual conversation, they claim that resilience is heroic, and that denouncing it as something negative is disrespectful to those who exhibit it, or that questioning it as a virtue is somehow cowardly or lazy, like it's an honor to be forcibly changed to survive your situation. For a long time, I was never sure how to go about explaining fully what I meant by this. A lot of the time it seems that people understand it like I want a perfectly cushy life for everyone, that no one should have to have any spine or courage, which is not what I mean. Ironically, it was my indulgence in escapism that finally showed me how I could demonstrate these ideas, through characters and storylines that don't romanticize martyrdom, angsty diamonds in the fluffy rough. Now, you might give me funny looks, or just cringe at what I'm about to bring up as my main example, but guess what? It's a damn good example. It's DreamSMP. Yep, the internet funny Minecraft men who make dick jokes and scream really started hitting different when they started role-playing the tragedies of war and how loss and trauma can affect people in a downright uncomfortably realistic way. Now, if you know anything about this SMP, which is a multiplayer Minecraft roleplay server that's streamed on Twitch, you know the story has become rather extensive. It's in its third season now, and thousands of hours of content for it exist. But these themes have existed ever since the second arc of the series, from stress-ridden, depressed ex-presidents to children being publicly executed with explosions, and more. Particularly, I'm going to be focusing on Tommy's arc throughout the Disc Saga and beyond into the prison arc, and how it was perceived, since it is one of the most clear examples. Right from the start, Tommy is a character who is roped into almost every violent conflict. He's loud and abrasive, and he seeks to irritate people for fun, while also being intensely passionate about the people and things he cares for. Practically a recipe for war and disaster, as he learns time and time again. The original Disc War, the Independence War, the Red Festival, the Manberg Rebellion, the November 16th Explosion, Exile, the Green Festival, the Doomsday Massacre, Disc Day, and recently being killed and then resurrected by his abuser, are all events that Tommy's character has had to live through and cope with as they surround him with death, destruction, and rip his home and friends away. All for being annoying, being blamed on him when they were not only his fault or really his fault at all. At face value, and from some of the other characters' biased perspectives, all of these incredibly horrible, traumatic events were justified being inflicted on Tommy because they were viewed as karma that taught him lessons. His resilience will teach him to be better, right? They may have changed him, sure, but whether that was for the better and whether or not his suffering was actually justified or not are other issues entirely. And that is what sets DreamSMP apart from most other stories I've heard. It addresses that. Something rare, refreshing, and incredibly sad. The ugly side of the trauma that extreme suffering can bring is showcased in full. For a while after enduring isolation, emotional abuse, and suicidal tendencies in exile, he is subdued and quiet, disturbingly different from who the audience knows he really is, and a lot of people who watched the series started to like his character better during that period, thinking of it as development.
Yeah, right, you can't even have your own house. You don't even have your own house, you're living in my floorboards like a raccoon.
There's nothing wrong with being a raccoon, dickhead.
Oh my god, let me get these vines off of my house.
You did. I'm in a very, I've been being very comical, Tenno, but if we're being serious for a millisecond, dickhead, you totally killed Tubbo, who is my best friend, and you.
He exiled you, Tommy.
Well, no, he exiled me because Dream made him.
Does Tubbo think you're his best friend? Does he think of you the same way, Tommy?
This was the original response to the typical romanticized version of trauma that is seen in media. Someone scared and meek and wholesome, made kind by their suffering, by their resilience, and the masses ate it up. Then something changed. Recovery, while it is a rocky road that is full of pitfalls, begins for Tommy, and suddenly viewers start to dislike his character again. He is still exhibiting a lot of tendencies consistent with PTSD and dealing with the fallout of intense manipulation, but he isn't meek or graceful about it anymore. He lashes out at people who try to approach him. He becomes angry rather than scared when triggered, and he represses his feelings to appear strong like he used to.
You're not real.
The fuck do you mean?
What?
What the fuck?
What? Whoa.
Pinch me.
Well, no, you pinch me.
No, you pinch me.
No, pinch me.
What the fuck is going on? It's my hello?
What? How are you? You died.
Turbo, I've been...
What?
Never say that. Never say that to me. Ever.
Never say.
Where's the development? Hot Takes cried. He's exactly the same as he started. He didn't learn anything. And that could not be further from the truth. He just didn't learn what we've been taught to think he should have. And can you blame him? Tommy's character has lived in a cycle of abuse since season 1. Betrayed and abandoned by mentors and people he looks up to when he needs them most, and then told that these failings and disaster are his fault, instead of the fault of the people who hold power over him, the people who actually pushed the doomsday button, summoned countless withers, threatened genocide. So he learned that trust is a flaw, that being cutthroat and secretive about the things you love is the only way to stop them being used against you. He learned that who he is, someone open and loud who wears his heart on his sleeve, is not something sustainable. Not something very positive to come out of his resilience, huh? He says it best himself at one of his lowest points, realizing what violence and revenge has turned him into.
Tommy, what are you doing?
I'm not...
I really
Tenno,
appreciate it.
This isn't me. This isn't... I mean, I look around and I'm not the person I want to be.
Tommy,
What am I?
what are you saying?
No, well, I mean, I'm...
We can still get out of here, Tommy. We can regroup. We can plan for another day,
Tommy. Tenno, if this is what I've become...
Oh, we're surrounded.
Then I don't want to be me anymore, man. I'm
Tommy, what are you saying?
I'm sorry.
Thinking these themes over reminded me of something else, though. While this message seems to be pretty rare in a lot of stories I read when I was younger, the Gone series by Michael Grant sticks out as one of those special ones where it is present. The events that occur throughout Gone are arguably more traumatic than even the most grisly parts of Dream SMP, with much more intense and graphic violence that happens much more frequently, mass starvation, mutilation, torture, all befalling those under 16, even younger than anyone else in the SMP. Again, I'm going to focus on one specific character, Lana. Because of the dozens of characters, her arc is one of the easiest to see the consequences of trauma negatively affecting someone. Lana's introduction to the story is immediately followed by an almost fatal car crash, getting kidnapped by sentient and malicious coyotes, being forced to use her brand new healing powers to give form to an evil godlike being, and getting possessed in the process. Already it doesn't look too good for her, and this is only the first book. Since then she's subjected to wars and famine, witnessing gory supernatural diseases and infections to the point of numbness. One of her earlier and tamer examples is here, being threatened at gunpoint to heal a sadistic enemy of all her friends. Notably, can you heal the dog? How would I blow her dog Patrick's, brains out? Can you heal that, freak? So, needless to say, that didn't make her kinder. She falls quickly into seclusion and addiction to cigarettes like many other kids in this series do, because these are the only coping mechanisms available to her. She becomes gruff, cold, and violent to the point that she always has a shotgun on her, and she uses it without much hesitation. She, like Tommy, is fully aware that she is becoming a worse person, but she's also almost entirely unable to change her situation, to really begin healing. She says as much. You know, I am a monument to being screwed up. It's not really something positive. The trauma they can't escape changes them, but it does not make them better. Lana is resilient, and she never should have had to be to that extent. Both of these characters and their stories are upsetting for obvious reasons. This message that there isn't something to be gained from suffering certainly isn't comforting outright, but for me at least, it was reassuring in a weird way. It was relatable in a way that narratives preaching martyrdom never could be. Of course, I've never witnessed the death and maiming of all I hold dear, and I am most certainly thankful for that. But I have experienced trauma that has changed me, and not all for the better. I experienced some pretty intense bullying in my younger years of school, ostracized and isolated because of my interests and trouble with social cues. Often I was told by my family that these hard times taught me resilience. And while they did teach me that, it wasn't necessarily a positive thing. I have unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with the anxiety from that to this day, isolating myself and overindulgence in escapism, to name a few. Is that the resilience I should aspire to? I don't think so. This is why I think there should be more stories like GONE, like Dream SMP. They show us that other side of things, beyond the wonder that surrounds the idea of martyrdom, these expectations of inspiring stories to come from suffering, when sometimes all that comes from it is just that, suffering. They show us that people need help, not praise after going through something tough. Not pessimism, but realism that can make people like me feel less guilty for not becoming perfect after something awful happens. In the end, resiliency is a complicated thing. It is admirable when people are able to exhibit it, but it is not something that should be celebrated as a whole. Both Dream SMP and GONE demonstrate this fantastically. Resilience, as we see it, is not a just concept. The concept of having to harden oneself to the world in order to survive it is incredibly unfair to those who have to experience it.